Salute, ATP. It's your boy Claymore Rain. Remix. Now, I had to put some perspective, really put some thought into this whole entire Errol Spence, Terrence Bud Crawford, TSZYU, Sebastian FUNDURA, but really TSZYU, let's be honest, right? But this little love triangle to where, Terrence Crawford is looking to get into activate his mandatory, to get the winner of TSZYU and Sebastian FUNDURA. But, Errol Spence all of a sudden has found interest in getting involved in the conversation. And, he's flying out to Vegas. He puts out the tweet. You guys seen it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What do I think about it? Well, look, man, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. At the end of the day, I can understand both. I can understand everybody's argument in the situation, right? My question to my community is, what fight makes more sense? I mean, at this point in the game, Errol Spence is dealing with, potential lawsuits with his ex-trainer, Derek James. We don't know and aren't aware if he even has a new trainer. And if he does have a new trainer, you would think that they'd have to warm up to each other a little bit, kind of melt a little bit before getting into a fight with what I see as a top competitor in TSZYU. High risk, of taking a loss with TSZYU if you're not properly prepared. And from TSZYU's point of view, who does he get more credit for? What makes more sense for him as far as on the path that he's on? Does he take a fighter like Errol Spence, who just came off of losing against Terrence Crawford in a dominating way? Or does he take the opportunity to actually fight the winner of that fight and really earn the accolades that he would be deserving of if he beat Terrence Crawford, defending both of his titles, the WBO and the WBC title that he had at that time, keeping in mind, of course, that he would have to potentially vacate a belt, the WBO belt that he fought and worked for, to just have a fight with Errol Spence, somebody who may not even be physically put together enough to compete at 100% capacity. Being that Steven Espinoza did mention that outside of the eye injury and eye surgery that Errol Spence had to have, that there were other medical complications that he had to get squared away. So taking that into consideration, just, fighting a shell of a fighter in Errol Spence in comparison who used to be at his prime ability to compete, or fighting a Terrence Crawford who's a two-weight class undisputed champion, going into the Hall of Fame, undefeated, beat that fighter Errol Spence. What makes more sense for TSZYU? Now, I know, I get it. Money. Prize fighting, right? I can be cool with that. I understand the need of a fighter to go get as much money as they can in their career. But is TSZYU in that chapter in his career? Is he in that place to where making the most money is his priority? I mean, I get it. I don't want to sound ignorant to the fact that, of course, making more money is going to be a big priority. But at the same time, how do you balance that against legacy, right? If fighting Terrence Crawford puts you in position to make you an even bigger star, isn't that locking in bigger paydays down the road, making you pound for pound, one of the pound for pound best fighters in boxing in the present day if you were able to defeat Terrence Crawford? Well, I guess a lot of this would also have to coincide with TSZYU's confidence in his ability to compete with Terrence Crawford and beat Terrence Crawford. Because without a doubt, I don't think there's any question that the more competitive fight, the more difficult fight, the fight where TSZYU would have to really step his game up to the highest level he's ever had it stepped up, would have to be against Terrence Crawford. That's just off, aesthetically, just looking from what the eye test says, and of course what the records say, that Terrence Crawford is the pound for pound best fighter in the world, and Errol Spence is not. So it'd be up to TSZYU, it looks like, in this situation, to make the right decision as to what he wants to do with his career right now. Is this prize fighting time? Is this get as much money as I can get time? Or is TSZYU really young in his career, really beginning to finally, just now, make an impression in the United States to have showcase his talents in the United States? I mean, he's definitely, got Australia behind him. He's locked that down, and probably known around the world. But as far as America's concerned, he's just making his real debut in so many ways, right? In the state as a champion. So what works best for TSZYU in this situation? And as far as Terrence Crawford is concerned, well, I think it's clear what he's been doing. Being caught up in a rematch clause, and just to find out that supposedly Errol Spence is not ready, And although Errol Spence activated the rematch clause, just showing, you know, between the videos of him having eye surgery and, you know, the rumors that were going around about him potentially having altitude sickness or being just depleted and dehydrated on the night of the fight, not being able to showcase his best talents. But still, regardless, Errol Spence being the warrior that we know him to be, activating that rematch clause, which I believe he had every intention on following through with. But, you know, things happen in life, right? But ultimately, how did Terence Crawford get affected by that? Where he had to sit back and wait before he could negotiate any fights for himself. And now that he has an opportunity to, you know, he's already made it clear that he's on his way out the door. That he was looking to get a fight with Canelo Alvarez. He pursued that to all ends, just to see that Canelo Alvarez is not interested in, no matter what, would not be considering to fight him right now, at least being that Terence Crawford was coming up from 147. Canelo Alvarez mentioned that what did he have to gain from that? And I can understand what Canelo Alvarez has gained from that. I can understand gaining from that, how he feels about that. But at the same time, rumors going around, spinning around, that he actually planned on fighting Errol Spence. If Errol Spence had won that fight, you know, you guys take it with a grain of salt. But for Terence Crawford, what's the best move? What the best move is the move he's trying to put through. Is the fight TSZYU, the winner of TSZYU, Sebastian FUNDURA. It puts him in the space to get a unified title, WBC and WBO title. Puts him as what? Let me see, 1, 2, 3. It will make him a 4 weight class champion, right? 2-time undisputed in 2 different weight classes. I mean, his legacy would be through the roof. I think a fight with TSZYU, especially, you know, with Australia behind him, could become a real huge fight. So I'd assume that would be a decent payday for him. But if that's not going to work, what's the next move for Terence Crawford? If Errol Spence were able to secure this fight, where does Terence Crawford go at this point? You know what I mean? Does he continue waiting, or might he just consider retiring at this point, being that the game is getting kind of crazy based off the fact that this whole entire being on the wrong side of the street thing seems to be showing its ugly face again, right? Because you guys know Terence Crawford is no longer signed to the PBC. He's a free, he's an independent fighter right now representing himself, and he's on the way out the door. So is he interested in re-signing contracts with the PBC or signing with some other promotional company? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it depends what he sees for his career and how many fights he thinks he has left. Saudi is always going to be in the conversation as to what can Saudi offer Terence Crawford. Who knows what kind of huge fights they could offer him that would entice him to staying, to entertain a big fight. Obviously, for what Terence Crawford has said, for the biggest payday he can get to. But you guys in the comments, go ahead, let me know what you think. What's the best move for each one of these fighters right now, especially TSZYU, and especially TSZYU, and especially Errol Spence. I mean, no, all 3 of them: Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, and TSZYU. What's the best move? Is it best for TSZYU to take his fight with Errol Spence right now, being that that's probably the easier fight and maybe his biggest pay opportunity? Or should he go ahead and keep on pursuing legacy, as he said, him being a throwback fighter, go ahead and go at the big dog in the building, which is Terence Crawford, and show the world that he's here, that Terence Crawford is an older generation who did what he did, but he's the new guy to keep your eye on, and PBC needs to pay attention to him closely. Does Terence Crawford wait by and see if Errol Spence can get this fight secure, or does he move on and potentially entertain trying to do other fights? And what other fights do you think Terence Crawford should get involved in? And should Errol Spence be taking a fight as big as a TSZYU fight right now at 154, or should he take a tune-up fight? I know Errol Spence doesn't believe in tune-up fights, but ultimately, if he's coming off these injuries and all these things are factual, and he hasn't really been able to physically step his game up, and also dealing with potentially a new trainer, being that him and Derek James seem to be at odds over financial commitments, what should he do? Does it make sense one way or the other? You guys let me know. Put in the comments. Guys, remember, if this is your first time watching this content, go ahead and put in your, hit the subscribe button, hit your bell icon so you get all your alerts when this content is dropping. Like, comment, hate, do what you do. Doesn't make a difference as long as you're watching the video. It's all good to me, you know what I'm saying? But it's your boy Rain. It's that ATP Combat Media Show, and at this point, we out.